Good morning, everybody. I'm John Casper with the Oshkosh Chamber, and again, welcome to our, this is the 8th in our year series here, program year series of Leading from the Top with Vicki Updike with New Sage Strategies and Joe Thompson with Differentiating Strategies. And today's topic is Women in Leadership. So we are, we're live here. We're recording this. People have questions, they can just use the Q&A tab. And with that, I will throw it over to Vicki, I'm guessing.
Yeah, thanks, John. Appreciate that. And we're glad to be here. So I'm Vicki Updike, founder of New Sage Strategies. And New Sage Strategies is a women's leadership development company, really equipping women with the toolbox to continue to build their career. So it's really the tactics and strategies to continue to build careers. And that's really what we focus on. Prior to that, I was in corporate USA and, worked my way to president of Silver Star Brands, which was also known as Miles Kimball. Joe, why don't you introduce you?
Hi, I'm Joe Thompson. For the last decade, I have been working since founding Differentiating Strategies with executive teams on strategies, but also on the leadership skills that are necessary in order to be able to put those strategies into place. And really enjoyed the chance to work with a lot of different organizations throughout the Northeast Wisconsin, both profit and nonprofit. And my mission with this is to make Northeast Wisconsin a better place to live. And we're hoping through these series that we've been doing in collaboration with the Oshkosh Chamber to be able to move that mission forward and make a difference in your ability, those of you attending or listening, to be able to lead as well.
Joe and I've had the privilege of Joe worked with me when I was president at Silver Star Brands, and then and the opportunity now to work with Joe with various clients. So it's been awesome. But we're here today to talk about women in leadership, and there's and it's an important topic, and diversity in general is a very important topic, and especially as you are leading a company or leading a team, what is important to recognize is the differences and how to bring those together. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to do that today. But let's talk about why is this even important?
As we go into this, what I'd like to do is invite anybody who has open questions, anybody who has questions, to type them in, and I'll be monitoring the questions. Vicki's flying the slides. So between the two of us, we'll make sure that if we can't answer it right away, that we'll fit that into our conversation with you this morning. And we invite that to be a conversation, a back and forth, so that we can come to a shared understanding on these things. The first thing we wanted to talk about, why is this important? We wanted to frame this not in the context of a social issue or something that is something that we do because we feel good about it, but in terms of this is something that we do because this makes good business sense. Having a diverse leadership team, having a diverse workforce is going to help your organization perform better. Some of the things that have been noted in the literature are noted on the screen in front of you. One of those is expand creativity in problem solving. When you have people that come from different backgrounds and bring different perspectives, what happens is they're able to contribute those to your whole business process. They're able to see things in a different way. And as you consider those different perspectives, you're able to come up with an ability to maybe see blind spots, to be able to fill in gaps that you might have otherwise missed. And you end up with a more robust ability to look at any situation that you're facing. This can lead to better decision making because you have a chance to be able to more better consider any kind of decision that you're making. So for instance, if you're looking at what an average consumer for your customer, for your company looks like, would you just sample one customer? No, you'd probably go out and look at a number of different customers. You might look at them at whether they're in different sizes or different geographies or different industries, because as you're making your decisions, you want to make sure that you're looking at that in a way that's representative of the group that you're working with. And this, having a diverse group, is the same way. You end up with people asking questions on the front end when it's less expensive to deal with it, rather than on the back end after everything is already finished and it gets more expensive dealing with it. Of course, having that happen is going to help you be more productive, and it's going to increase your profitability. The other thing that's a part of this and is key to all of us, we can see it now as we come out of the pandemic and we begin to have jobs come back, is we need to be able to have people filling those jobs, and we want to be able to retain the best talent. And a lot of places, including Northeast Wisconsin, really want to attract and retain good talent. And for a lot of the people that we're looking for, if they aren't what we would consider diverse, part of a diverse population themselves, they value that. They want to see companies that are providing opportunities to as broad a constituency as possible. Finally, when you look at things like how we present as a company, being diverse is going to help the reputation of the company. My daughter works at Oshkosh Corp, and one of the things that they are involved in is the Dow Jones Sustainability Index. And one of the aspects that they report to Dow Jones for that index is how diverse is their leadership, and how diverse are their hiring practices, and what are they doing to welcome people across the spectrum into the organization. And investors like BlackRock are looking at those kind of things in choosing which companies that they're going to invest in. So what we're talking about today is a business performance issue. And so as you think about this and your questions, I encourage you to think about this in terms of the performance of your business and how this can impact you and what you can be doing as a leader in order to be able to address this and leverage diversity in your organization. Vicki?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I think that's, it's that the data has proven it over and over again that increased profitability and productivity. So this is a business issue, and there's many reasons why those numbers improve as you have a diverse leadership. But this is a nice summary of the why. Thanks, Joe. So as we get started, I wanted to share just a couple data points. And one is the broken rung. And the broken rung is defined as the biggest obstacle women face on their path to senior leadership. It is the first step of manager. And I'd like to walk through this. This is in 2019. So this is from McKinsey in the Women in the Workplace study. And they've been doing this study for, I think, about 12 years. And have been tracking how women are progressing in leadership. And if you can see, so the data is from 2019 that was released in 2020. We're anxiously awaiting their 2020 data. But what the data shows us in our most recent year is that at entry level, women represent 48% of the workforce, which is a good number, right? I mean, that's about what's graduating college. That's very much reflective of the population. The next level, and B is defined as manager. So that is the next step on a senior leadership journey. You can see that the population goes from 48% to 38%. So in that broken rung is the first step of women moving to leadership positions. There's a 10-point difference in women moving to those. And as you can see, as it goes through, the numbers continue to decline, but not at the rate they did in the first step. So that's what we're going to talk about here. Now you can say, well, how has it been trending? And so I wanted to show the data here from 2015. So women in the workforce was a little less, I wouldn't say not tremendously, but it was still, in 2015, a 12-point difference. So although we've been working hard on continuing women's leadership development and continuing to make and help businesses see that diverse workforce is important, we have made very little progress in that first step. As we've continued down the progression to the C-suite, things seem to be slightly improving. But what we really want to talk about is this first step into a manager's position of your high performers in your organization. So let's go to the next data point, the next data point that we have. And this source comes from Harvard Business Review. And what we like to define as the confidence gap. Now, these are self-reported. These are self-rated numbers as men and women go through their career. And you can see the age group on the bottom. But there is a pretty significant, I would call massive, gap in the variance of confidence that is self-reported from your female workforce to your male workforce. It's almost a 20-point difference that in the gap on how they feel they are confident in doing their job. And as you go even to the next 5 years, the gap, although it improves nicely, there's still a 10-point gap in the perceived confidence that we have in ourselves, men versus women. So these two data points is that although women are as technically competent, we don't feel like we are ready to take the next step as much as, and that is leading to the broken rung. So, but there are things we can do, right? So we're going to talk about that. Joe, I just want to make sure, is there anything that you'd like to add on this?
No, we don't have any questions at this point. One of the things I'd just like to have participants be thinking about as they're looking at this, be thinking about your own organization, be thinking about specifically your people that fall into these demographics, these age brackets. And as we're beginning to go forward and talk about some of the things that we can do, what are the things that you're doing now to even be aware of this? How would you even know as a leader that this might be occurring within your organization? Is there, are you talking to people, or are people having conversations in a way where this kind of thing would even be apparent to you? Because I know one of the things that's frustrating as a leader is you see something like this and we're talking about it, and it's something that you might not even have been aware of. And even more painful is you find out that it's happening right underneath your own roof. So I encourage you, as you think about this, not to look at this as something that's happening out there, but think about this as, is this happening under my roof? Is this happening in my organization? How would I know that? And as we go through some of these other ideas, how are we really going to apply this and make a difference for us as an organization?
Thanks, Joe. The confidence doesn't come back to equal footing until we're in our 40s, which is a significant leadership. So from your early 20s to your 40s is a significant portion of your leadership journey and on your career and your career path. So we want to talk about, as Joe mentioned, not just that this is just data that's out there, but what can we do about it? And how can we impact the leadership in our own company and really preserve a pipeline of leaders coming through the company?
And Vicki, if I can add, over a decade doing coaching with individuals, one of the things that with coaching is you usually have somebody who already has that certain degree of confidence, and you're working with that, and in some cases kind of holding it back so that they have a chance to learn and not jump in too far ahead. You can get people that are really a little more confident than what their abilities are. But sometimes when you run into people who have issues with confidence that they're expressing to you, they're saying, I'm not sure I'd be able to do that, or, you know, I might be in over my head here, this kind of thing. That's where coaching has to move more to direction, that you need to be more directive in not only supporting them and saying, you know, giving them the moral support that you can do there, but also helping them, you know, walk through and make some of those decisions in terms of even helping them directly developing some of those skills and demonstrating those skills, because it takes more support for somebody who is dealing with confidence than it does with somebody who's already confident and you're working more hands-off as a coach. This is more of a hands-on thing. And so as you look at it, also be looking at, you know, if we have, say, a mentoring program, how does our mentoring program adapt in order to meet the needs of the various individuals, that it's not just a one-size-fits-all for this and expecting that everybody's going to respond the same.
Yeah, excellent point. I mean, coaching and as you know, and I focus my executive coaching on women. Of course, most of my clients are female, and the number one thing, and they could be a president of an organization to an individual contributor and high performer. Every single one. Confidence is part of our conversations in our executive coaching sessions. So this is still very relevant today. And so let's talk about what can you do? What are the action items that you can take to continue to move your high performers through their leadership journey? So we like to call this our call to action. Because there are meaningful things that you can do, especially when you're focusing on women in leadership. And the first thing I always like to say is align on career development. There is, as a leader, and as you look at your high potentials and you look at your women high potentials, to actually have an intentional conversation about their career development. Where do they see themselves going? Is there some some assumptions they're making for themselves right now that are not necessary? You know, and what I mean by that is that, you know, you're stepping into your career in the first 10 years, it's like, oh, I'm never going to be in management. I don't want to do that. But in the beginning of your career is not the time for you to make that decision. So the encouragement and alignment on career development is, let's make those decisions when those decisions are ready to be made, but let's not hold you back. Let's continue to push you forward. And it's not a push, it's that encouragement, because if you remember back to the confidence gap, they need that encouragement and that tap on the shoulder that says, I believe in you, and I think let's keep this open as we continue to move through your career. Joe, what are your thoughts there?
I think that is something that's necessary. I think there may be also, you might be thinking about what are some of those opportunities. So if you ask somebody what they want to do at early in your career, it doesn't make a difference, male or female. A lot of times you don't know like what the options are and what the possibilities are. And but there may be, if you have somebody who's maybe has a confidence issue or they may need you to be more explicit, more suggestive of some of the things that they ought to be doing, even to the point of saying, giving them an assignment to do it that's going to help them with their career development. And there's a difference between talking to somebody who's saying, I could do just about anything, and talking to somebody who's has already decided that this probably isn't possible. That's probably not me. And that wouldn't fit with what I'd be able to do, because they may be, the person you're talking to maybe have already selected things based on what they think that they're not going to be able to do. And in conversation, you may find out that, that's not really something that should be an obstacle, that we can go ahead and work in that direction. So you may have to be more supportive in terms of even helping people see where those opportunities reside.
Early in my career, when I was changing companies, and it was really my first move from, so I was in that 23 to 25 year bucket, maybe. But I got a great new job, and great increase in pay, and I remember thinking as I was changing jobs, okay, I'm set, I'm good here, and this is where I'm going to land. And so if you would have asked me on my career development if I would wanted to continue my journey, to go into senior leadership, I probably would have said, I'm not so sure. I'm good here. And that is a common answer. But given the opportunities, right, I was able to move my career to the president's chair. And so that's where so aligning on career development and keeping those options open for your young high performers is just really important. So let's go on to the next one. Is ongoing performance alignment. And this is a big one, especially in today's world, because, we all had to come and start working kind of in our own space where, we don't have the daily interactions, live interactions with our team. There's an isolated, but in this environment, ongoing performance alignment. So to be sure that your team knows how they're doing and knows the performance expectations, and they've changed. And as they change, to be sure you continue to align on that. Especially about a year ago, as the whole world shifted to working from home, the big question is how do I continue to perform like I used to in this new environment? And women specifically in this time felt like, I'm not doing anything well. I don't feel like I'm doing my job well. I don't feel like I'm, a good daughter, wife, mother, whatever you are. But there was this feeling of I'm not performing well. And what I found through my clients and through what we've, been able to work through is that they were performing well. It's just that is that we didn't feel that satisfaction. But so that the ongoing performance alignment with your supervisor to intentionally continue to align with those that report to you that, these are our priorities. This is how you're doing. And thank you for your contributions, I think is so important, because those honestly change all the time, especially in today's environment. We're going to be going back to work, right? We're slowly starting the hybrid model of going, of spending time in the office and still work from home. Ongoing performance alignment as we transition again is going to be critical, because there is, in that confidence level that we showed earlier, we don't feel like we're doing a good job. So intentionally have those performance alignment conversations with your young leaders.
And I would say, based on conversations I've had over the course of the last, say, 12 months or so, the places where, as leaders, you need to be aware is where you have a manager who is also an individual contributor. So they're responsible for the performance of some individuals, but they're also getting that work done. And when I've just had a conversation yesterday with a young woman, very talented young woman who's not really sure where she's at in terms of, doesn't know if she's doing a good job or not. She's looking at asking me if I thought she should apply for jobs at other places because of that. But she's in a situation where her leader is also trying to get work done. And because this is kind of a crazy environment, hasn't had the time for being able to provide feedback. And a lot of that prior to this happened just because they bumped into each other in the hallway or would do a drop-in visit. And now with some of the schedules and trying to get time set up, it's become more of a formal thing than it had before, where there was a lot of informal interaction and informal feedback. So it's something to be conscious of, because we don't want to carry those remote work habits back into the workplace, where a lot of what we share and come together on aren't the result of formal interactions, but rather the interactions that are part of a healthy team.
And if you're the manager or the leader feeling like, I don't even think I'm doing a good job, my advice to you is to go to your leader and have that aligning discussion to say, okay, I just want to be sure, where am I at? What are my priorities? What are the timelines? And say, what else? And ask for feedback. Say, what else can I do? Or I can't do anymore. Am I doing okay? And 90% of the time you are. So have that aligning discussion if that's a stress point for you.
I want to emphasize that. I think that's really important. If this is a leading from the top discussion, but some of the people that are either listening right now or maybe listening to this later when this is recorded, you're listening to it because you're interested in it, but you may not be at the top. When you look at the things we're talking about here and we're encouraging leaders to do, you can go to your leaders as questions about these things and be bold, be specific on what your needs are, because a lot of times what you have is you have people operating not with intent, but rather with a blind spot. And you're doing them a favor if you go in there and are able to have that discussion and be able to talk about the kind of things that you need in order to be able to perform for them. They're going to want you to perform well. They're going to want to retain good talent. And sometimes you need to be able to help manage up and help your boss perform better. So don't be bashful about that. Get in there, and if you're not sure where you're at, get in there and ask. And if you're not sure about any of these things we're talking about, get in there and have that conversations. Make that happen.
So the next call to action that we'd like to highlight is sponsorship. And Joe and I talked in our last session here at the Chamber on sponsorship and the difference between sponsorship and mentoring. But sponsorship is really intentionally investing in your high performers and putting them on the projects or the positions where they can continue to stretch themselves and learn and grow. Now, it's such an important factor. I mean, if you go back to the Broken Rung, and women are going to be less likely to say, I can do it. And they may feel that they need another year experience, and this is where sponsoring is most critical, because you tapping them on the shoulder to say, I know you can do it. We're going to give you the supportive structure to help you do it, but I want you to continue to make a greater impact. Just that sponsorship alone is going to start boosting the confidence, and you're going to see benefit from it, right? Because they're going to be working on big projects or taking the next step in their career. But as an individual contributor, or as I can't go to someone and say, okay, I want you to sponsor me. That is really something that comes from the leadership and is almost a leadership culture in organizations to say, okay, Vicki, I want you on this project, and I know it's going to be tough and it's going to stretch you, but I'm here for you, and I want you to move forward with this. And that is what can help. I would say that is one of the biggest factors to help that broken rung, is to tap your high performers on the shoulder and say, you can do it, and I really need you.
So if any of you have any questions, please feel free to drop them into our question box here. We have a quiet and pensive crowd this morning, so
that's all right. That's okay. So the next one, as a leader, what can you do? I would say ask for feedback. And this is something that leaders sometimes forget. We tend to guess or just kind of put everybody in the same bucket. But if you ask for feedback and say, how can I best support you? And let your team tell you, and take those nuggets then that are meaningful and or challenge, those individuals with those next steps. But asking for feedback to say, how can I best support you is a great step to say, okay, how can we work together to continue your journey? Joe, what I know.
And I would say for feedback, you can be asking feedback from anybody that's around you. That includes your peers and other people in the organization. Particularly if they're outside of your your location, or because they sometimes have different perspectives and they are in a different place. It's also where it's helpful to be part of a networking group, because you can ask people that are outside your company, what are they seeing, and what are the kind of things that are going on. Here's an experience I'm having. Here's what I'm up against. Have you seen anything like this? All of those things help you be able to see problems from different perspectives, and also see possibilities that you may not see being just where you are. And we're going to start becoming more open as far as having interactions with each other face to face. And we're just before this started, John was talking about the chamber starting to have some of the gatherings, social gatherings, that member-to-member gatherings. I mean, there's opportunities that we'll have to go to those. And when you go, maybe that's a chance to just meet somebody and ask them a few questions about these kind of things and make some connections. That really helps be able to maintain perspective on this. I know a number of times in my career, probably my best boss, and I think I mentioned this last time, was a woman. And this was over a couple decades ago. And some of the things that we have for getting together weren't as easy to do, but she had a network of other women that were working their way up the organization, that were in management, and she talked to them all the time. And I could tell, because she would come back for some things, and I'd ask her, so where'd that come from? Because it clearly wasn't the way our organization was confronting a particular situation. And she'd tell me, this is what they're doing over at, and she'd name the other company. And she said, I think that'll work here as well. So be creative in terms of where you seek your feedback.
And as a leader, feedback is so critical, because we all have intentions with what we're doing and how we're leading and how we're delegating and how we're assigning accountability. And as leaders, we have our intention, but what's more important than your intention is your impact. And you're not going to understand the impact you have on people around you until you start asking for that honest feedback, to say, because you really want the intent and impact to be aligned. And feedback is a great tool for you as a leader to ensure that your impact is the same as your intent. There was a time when I was president, and I used to love to walk through, just the social gatherings, or the casual gatherings, be it lunches or whatever. And I'd walk through and I'd just kind of sit down for a moment with, various groups of people and say, okay, what's going on? And we would start talking, and it was good brainstorming and just that catchball conversation. And and then, I would leave like, that's great. Well, I found out later that from one of those conversations, the group thought that I had intended them to do something And and that wasn't my intent at all. My intent was just to, get to know you. What's the stresses? What do you think about that problem? But not to actually have a call to action on that. So it's your impact, even though your intention may be, I just want to get to know you and understand your perspectives. They took it as, oh my gosh, now I got to do something. So you just never truly know the true impact of those very casual conversations unless you ask for that feedback. Joe had told me a long, long time ago that positions and titles, and especially people in leadership, cast a large shadow. And that shadow is your impact. And you may not even understand what that shadow is and what that impact is. So asking for feedback is a really great way for you to align on the unknowns of your shadow. And we'll go to number 5. So, and this, as you're developing your young women executives and your young women leaders, giving them timely and frequent feedback is important. So if you see something good that's happening, share it with them immediately. If you see a coaching opportunity, don't make a mountain out of a molehill, just comment on it, support them, and help them improve. That will alleviate so much stress and self-talk about that confidence level. Your people will not have to guess on how they're performing. And the longer you leave between the moment and the feedback, the more that confidence or that self-doubt talk especially in women continues to fester. So if you're waiting for a performance review or until your weekly meeting or your monthly meeting with your team, I encourage you to just pick up the phone or stop in their office, or, as we're leaving meetings, just give them the timely feedback. That stress of the unknown on performance and on erodes self-confidence in such a meaningful and really destructive way.
When we're talking about feedback and receiving and giving feedback, I'd like to just go back to the perspectives that we opened with, and that is being somebody in an organization, being a woman in an organization where you look up the ladder and you see a decreasing percentage of people being women in the organization. And then couple that with that you may not even be aware, but that you may have a confidence gap between you and your male counterparts. So when you look at that, there's some things there that may not even be apparent to you as a leader looking at that, because you may not see that. So when you're giving feedback or whether you're receiving feedback, there's really 2 things to emphasize in that. One is, and Vicki said that, to be honest, but I'd like to amplify on that a little bit in terms of being honest is telling it like you see it. Being honest also means that you are going to tell it like you see it, and you're going to recognize that the way you see it may not be the way the other person sees it. And the way you see it may not be the way it really is. So that in giving feedback, recognizing that you're going to be honest with them, you're going to be transparent with them, you're going to let them know what you're seeing, but also that you're open to understanding that they may be seeing something or experiencing something, or something really may be different. And second, don't guess. Don't assume because you haven't heard anything that everything is great. Don't assume because somebody gives you a short, it's great. Yeah, I'm having a great experience here. That's the complete answer. Be ready to maybe take a little bit of time and say, well, tell me a little bit more about what is it that you do like about working here. And you'll be able to tell as you do that, the people who are able to spontaneously respond and the people who might be a little bit hesitant. And if it's hesitant, this may have more to do with their confidence than it is to your openness. And just be aware of that as you have these interactions, because, you know, Vicki talked about the long shadow, and you do cast that. And for somebody who's lacking maybe a little bit in confidence, or who sees the people above them begin to look less and less like them, that can cause you to be really cautious about how you approach any kind of interaction with that higher level or higher authority person in the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a very good point, Joe. So, you know, I think as we look at these 5 calls to action, the theme is, as leaders, to intentionally go to your high potentials and have these intentional conversations with them. Women by far need those intentional conversations, and they will not be the ones to ask for them. So whereas maybe some of your other high performers might, you know, kind of that boldness of self-confidence to say, I want to go to the next level, and I'm not sure if I know everything, but I can go do it. Your high potential females are going to be less likely to do that. But you see it. I have said so many times to women I've coached or women I've led in organizations, I wish you could see what I see. And they can't. They just don't. That self-awareness component is there's just that confidence gap in their own perceptions of their talents. And so if you see that and encourage that person to bring that out and to continue their development and to continue the performance alignment and sponsor them, put them in the hard jobs. That happened to me a couple times, and that's not like you're guaranteed any promotion or anything, but I tell you, those are the growing moments that it's like, oh my God, I got to go do this. And I have the support of my leaders behind me, but they want me, propping me up to go and do this. And those, I probably would have been the one that just would have stepped back and just said, no, I'm okay for right now. And they said, no, you keep going. And then, and then as you continue to move through your career, you start believing that yourself. So truly having those intentional conversations with your young leaders in your organization and continue to push them. Your female high performers are going to be less likely to raise their hand and say, I'm ready. So go to them and support them and give them the opportunity to learn and grow. I want to end today with the Women's Leadership Conference. This is an annual conference in Northeast Wisconsin that was started. It was started by my company, New Sage Strategies, and it is a fabulous day of the unique aspects of women's leadership. And it is a full day. It is a high, our learning environment, right? I mean, my goal is when we bring these awesome women together is that you take meaningful things away from today and will have an impact on your career or on your leadership journey or in life. So it's a full day event. It'll be on October 7th, 2021 at the KI Convention Center in Green Bay. We are extremely hopeful that as our restrictions the restrictions will continue to decline, and we're anticipating about 500 people to be attending in person, but there will also be a virtual component. So if that doesn't make sense for you, you can always sit in on it virtually. But it is really to inspire and empower the leader in all of us, because leadership is not a title. It is a skill, and to continue to develop that skill is critical. And it is so fun to see the leadership development in people that are just, young, eager. But this conference is for everyone, right? It's for those that lead women. It is for those that, it is for, women in any position in their career. And really, it will be a fun, engaging event.
And I'll point out that I put in the chat box the link in case anybody wants to get that. Makes it more convenient for you. Also like to note that this is a women's conference, but it's not just women that can attend.
Correct.
And I've been to the conference, and if you're trying to get a perspective on things in terms of what your women leaders might be experiencing, this is a great place to go. And personally, if you're getting a perspective of what it's like to be different than most of the people in the room, that's probably also a good place to go. But it was really a positive experience, but it really kind of opened my eyes to a lot of things that I try to be aware anyway, but it was really interesting hearing this in different people's voices and coming to understand that, because if we are going to work together, if we're going to work together as a team, men and women, senior executives and entry-level people, and we're going to make our organizations as high performing as we can, we need to be able to have a shared understanding of each other. And this is a great way to be able to add to that shared understanding of a big group of people that are part of our everyday life, both in work and out of work.
Absolutely. Thanks, Joe. So with that, I want to say thank you. Thanks, John and the Chamber, for giving us this opportunity. And, and we will be back for other sessions. But thanks for allowing us to share our perspectives.
Our next one.
The pleasure is all ours. You guys do a great job for us and have done that over the last several years, and hope to continue this as we move forward past summer into next fall. So again, thank you all for being here for us and presenting your Leading from the Top series for our membership. Just a reminder, it has been recorded, and we'll be pushing it out to the membership. So if you those that were unable to join us today, they can catch it a little later. So next one is on May 11th at 8 o'clock on accountability. It will be a Zoom webinar, hopefully our last Zoom webinar, and then we'll be back in person again come fall. So with that, Vicki, thank you, and Joe, thank you again for being with us, and we will see you all on the 11th.
All right. Thanks,
Bye.
John. Thank you.
So long.